24-hour party people, 'tis I, Tim the Brand Weaver, and as always, you're listening to Branding for Breweries, the podcast that brings the brightest minds in the brewing community together to help your brewery thrive, survive, and generally be as awesome as possible. Once again, I very much appreciate you joining me this morning, this afternoon, this evening, whenever you're tuning in, lending me your eyeballs, earlobes, and anything else that you're using in which to engage in this conversation with us. I am joined today by a friend from across the pond, all the way in America, and it's a lovely Friday afternoon for me, but it's an early Friday morning for her. So let's give her some sympathy as she hasn't even had coffee yet. But today I'm joined by Madeline. She is a fractional marketing strategist, and she has worked in tap rooms. She's grown her own very trendy social following, and ultimately she helps breweries to connect the dots between their marketing activities and actually achieving some gosh darn tootin' awesome stuff. And today we're going to be talking about what marketing really is beyond the reels and feels that everyone thinks it is. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I invite to the stage Madeline. Woo, Madeline! How's it going, bud?
Hello, I'm fantastic. Thank you for having me.
You are very welcome. This chat has been a long time coming. We've been conversing 4, 5, 6 weeks probably getting this sorted out, and I am very happy to have you here. Are you ready for a good conversation?
I am. I've been fangirling over your content for a while now, so I'm excited to actually have this conversation in real time.
And I think that's a good kind of memento for other people listening. If they just want to feature on the show, all they need to do is reach out and tell me how much of a fan of me they are. And you get a conversation. No, that's not true, Madeline, because you have a whole host of knowledge that we want you to share today. So maybe before we get stuck into a good old chinwag, could you give everyone a little bit of background about yourself and what brings you here today, please?
Sure. Again, my name is Madeline McMahon, fractional marketing strategist. I've been running my business for about 3 years now, but I have a unique background that has gotten me to a place where I really appreciate the impact of community for small businesses, specifically those that have a brick and mortar location. I've done door-to-door sales. I've managed apartment complexes. I've done lots of different types of things in addition to my work with beer that have led me to appreciate the resources that are available within a community. So that is part of what makes my approach a little more unique. I specialize in paying with time and with an organic approach to marketing strategy.
Sounds exciting. So let's kind of unpack this a little bit. And in your opinion, when we're focusing on breweries, because that's what we're talking about, of course, what do you think is that biggest misunderstanding when it comes to doing marketing? Because I've got my opinions on it, but I'd love to hear what you think.
I think that we are missing the mark on really connecting with our local community. Part of the reason I started my business was I would be at a beer festival, for example, and someone would say that they had never heard of the brewery before, and it's in their backyard. Or I kept hearing brewery owners say that people in their community don't know that they have this brewery in town. And that just seemed really silly to me, right? So I started formulating a strategy around going out into the community and inviting people to come in. I think that 5 years ago, we lived in a world where if you brewed the beer, people would find it, people would come. And that's not quite the case anymore. Things change and evolve over time naturally. And we're currently in a season where customers have lots of options and lots of places that they can give their business. And so not only is there more competition in the market in general, I see that a lot of breweries have taken advantage of distribution channels, which is great for scaling and expansion, but can sometimes be a barrier you don't realize you have for your local consumer. You know, if they can buy your beer from the grocery store in that one-stop shop, they may not come to the brewery in a way that you understand you have that loyal following. So I like to encourage breweries to get out of the brick and mortar and conduct some of their own outreach marketing. Because social media is a necessary vehicle, but not the only tool that I think breweries should leverage.
And is that like one of the tools of social media is its broad reach. Like you say, you can get breweries out there who can get their beers to a lot further afield now. But is that a challenge where because they can do that, they almost forget about what's on their doorstep in many ways? They've kind of leapfrogged beyond the local community.
And I think it's not just that, it's the overwhelming amount of options and the overwhelming number of things that there are to consider in that different marketing strategy. What I have found in building an organic following is that the people I've connected with show up regardless of my frequency of posting, regardless of the themes that I'm following. The people that I've connected with in my personal social space have followed me for over 10 years now. And it started as a beer profile and it's evolved into a lot of things, but I connected with people that are following my journey now. So I think that where breweries are leaving money on the table is by not going out and connecting with local communities without telling other people that you have the business in the area. They may not inherently know that you're there. So one of my favorite things to do when I'm talking to a new client is I ask them if they're a member of their Chamber of Commerce or if they are connected with their local economic development. And there are a couple of benefits to that. From a marketing space, if you join an organization, they typically will list your website on their own website. So you've got that backlink engagement. But best case scenario, you're going to be working with a Chamber of Commerce that will host events at your actual brewery. One of my most successful experiences with a brewery and a Chamber of Commerce, we played the networking muscle. We went through all of the different networking touch points. We showed up, we brought beer, and now they are hosting chamber events for the young professionals on a regular basis. So that's what I mean by going out and connecting with the community. What other events are out there where you can find people that are going to come sit in your tasting room? And it can be tough to kind of narrow down those options too. Again, it's not always going to be the same experience when you're doing this outreach. So you do need to have kind of a flexible mindset. Sometimes you're looking for your next employee. Sometimes you're looking for your next collaborator. Sometimes you're looking for your next user-generated content. You know, there are lots of different ways that you can approach it, but the trick really is getting outside of just your four walls of your own brewery. Does that make sense?
100%. And I just love that, even that little tidbit of going, if you just rock up with some beer, you're immediately going to get the attention of people. Because I've been to networking groups and stuff in the past and ain't no one bringing beer. So that's probably a good winner immediately. But help me outline kind of the approach. So you say about looking for chambers of commerce. We have those here in the UK as well. We have other networking groups, and like a Google search will normally help you find a bunch of them, I should imagine. But there's got to be a bit more to a strategy, a bit more of a strategy to it than, oh yeah, that one's on a Thursday morning. I'm going to rock up with like a 24 pack and hope for the best. Like, how should a brewery approach this as a plan?
I think that's a really great question because time is a really valuable asset. And again, I specialize in paying with time. So I'm not interested in asking someone to add something to their calendar that doesn't naturally work within their workflow. I'm not going to ask you to drive 20 miles or 20 minutes in a direction to try to find this networking group. What I'm encouraging brewery owners to do, or tasting or managers to do, is to find whatever that local networking opportunity is and lean in. To pick a space where you're going to show up, whether it's once a month, twice a month. There are some things that are once a week. I find that networking truly is a muscle. It's something that you have to exercise and continue to be present. But some perspective on how to narrow it down. Thinking of the chamber I referenced earlier, this Chamber of Commerce in particular is very active on their own social profiles. Every event they have has a photographer. So when I went on behalf of the brewery I was representing, I was always wearing something branded. And those photos always ended up on the social media profile. So not only was I introducing myself, introducing my brand to the room, I ended up on additional pieces of marketing collateral with their logo just by showing up. So a Chamber of Commerce is a financial investment for you to join that. You know, it's not something that's free. So you do typically have to pay for events. And so when I ask someone to make an investment like that, I'm also asking them to budget the time to be present and to attend, because you can't just join an organization and expect that that work will be done for you. That's why finding an organization that you feel comfortable with means so much. And that could be Pink Boots. That could be a local rubber boots for, it doesn't have to be a chamber of commerce. The reason I focus on a chamber of commerce is I'm looking for the people that don't know your brewery is there. I'm looking for your neighbors. I'm looking for the people that drive by your brick and mortar and just haven't looked past that tree line. I find by going and introducing yourself as a representative of this brand, it starts people asking questions. It gives more brand awareness. And then when you think of how many touch points it can take someone to remember you or recognize your name, going to a networking event, you've got a number of opportunities. Again, if you're wearing something branded, if there's a photo of it, your business card could also be a coupon or an incentive, right? And when you're going there and you're going to these networking events, a good referral for you is someone who likes beer, right? It really is that simple. And that makes conversations feel so much more relaxed, because everyone around you is trying to sell something to each other. And you're just there to listen to the pain points of the community and let them know that they can have that meeting they're talking about at your brewery. Or if they want to host an educational event for their staff, you can come through and see how beer is made, and you can relate that back to tasks within an organization, right? There's lots of different ways we can invite people in, but if you're not seeing them in your tasting room, where can you go find them in something that is repeatable, right? And in an organization that there are multiple levels of benefits. You get the backlink, you get the photos and the recognition, you get events hosted at your location. I look for the most bang for my buck, right? So something that works with my schedule, is nearby, and with an active community that is looking to engage with other businesses.
I love that. And just talking about it, it is such a low barrier to entry in comparison to a lot of people who are going to be there. Like, if I think back to my experiences with networking, you've got accountants and you've got photographers and you've got people who are looking for, I don't know, to take a couple of grand off of you for a project. And all you're looking for is someone who enjoys a pint, right? That's so much easier. You don't have to go in with the hard sell. Like you say, you rock up with a bit of merch, you've got a couple of cans or a couple of bottles, and the conversation is easy. It's like, oh, you're from a brewery? Yeah, we're just 5 minutes down the road or wherever it might be. It sounds like a no-brainer when you put it that way. I love it. And with the likes of the Chamber of Commerce or networking meetings, do you put like kind of village fates and kind of other communal get-togethers in the same bucket, or are they something a little bit different?
That's a great question, because it can be difficult to understand the return on investment of time, right? The first time that you go to one of these events, you may not schedule a private party at your brewery. It is going to take multiple touch points. So how do you justify taking time away from the brewery to be in this space? And how do you anticipate what that return on investment should look like? So I do think it's important to be intentional with the organization. I'm not looking for your tasting room manager to just arbitrarily leave for hours at a time, right? We really want there to be a route or a territory. And then we want there to be reporting and updates. So one thing that I encourage people to do to kind of help keep track of if an event is fruitful, or if you're having a good relationship with someone outside of just your traditional spreadsheets and things like that, is actually having a Google form. And anyone who participates in an offsite event fills that out at the end, right? So generally, how many people were there? What was the audience like? How many business cards or connections did you make? You can actually start pooling that information. And then after 3 or 6 months, look back and see what really was the impression. Where does it make the most sense? Who did call? And I think it's not just about showing up. It's about having an idea of what you expect to happen because you're there. What do you expect will happen with that brand awareness, or with that photo of the branding, the branded polo online? Like what are the options, and how do you start to quantify that? I like to remind people that the person that controls the data controls the narrative. So if you have tasked your tasting room manager with joining the chamber and representing the chamber, and then you're asking them if it's working or not, people need to have an idea of what those metrics are. So measuring it in a Google form, kind of reporting on the experience, is a great way. My favorite my favorite follow-up for any networking event. If you get any contact information, my pro tip is actually go and connect with that individual on LinkedIn as yourself, because everyone in this conversation is also developing professionally. We want people to feel empowered and excited about it. We don't want to task someone to go out to a chamber of commerce that sits in a corner and doesn't know why they're there. We want someone who feels seen for being in the room, who wants to be in the picture because of all of those different touch points. So there's that layer of encouragement and empowerment and autonomy. Add them as personal connections. And then there's also the opportunity for the brewery to follow those local business pages as well. So if you have a food component, for example, if you're near offices and you're wondering why they're not coming to have lunch with you, why not meet them where they are, connect with them on social media, and then cheerlead their business as the brewery, right? There are so many different ways that we can show up to complement once we've made that initial interaction. And this isn't a conversation where I'm looking for you to get 25 emails that you plug into a funnel. That's a component of it. I'm looking for you to connect with the humans that can come to see you at your brewery and then invite them in. And we have the luxury of not really having to ask for much. We get to be the good guys. We've got food or alternative, you get to listen to what people are looking for, listen to the complaints, the pain points, and then show up as their cheerleader and invite them to celebrate their wins with you at the brewery.
I think it's such a wise move, like you say, connecting one with the person, but then also championing the other local businesses around you, because a business is an entity that has a lot of people within it, right? So you may have only met one person as that representative from that business, but there indeed could be another 30, 50 people within that who very quickly go, oh, I didn't know about, insert brewery name X here. And like you say, the job isn't to collect all the email addresses, but I would have thought like another quick win is if you exchange business cards, go, oh, do you mind us adding you to our brewery newsletter? And that's just a great way to drip feed it, right? And I'd almost say, like, when you say you hand out a business card, you could have something as simple as like, here's a 10% off coupon if you bring this into the tap room, like to deliver on that extra sale. Is that the kind of the next step that you would encourage beyond connecting online, like bring it back to the physical?
That is also a great way to track the return on investment of time with that, right? If you've got a numbered system, or if you are able to keep track of who passes out what cards and where they're redeemed, then you can trace back the return on investment of being at that event, and then the opportunity is to have a budget for so many of those cards to be redeemed, or the opportunity is to have a metric of number of one-on-ones that you want to have with other business owners and invite them into the brewery for that meeting. Again, the more you connect with different business owners, the more you can find where they are and what they need and meet them where they are. I find that there are a lot of really incredibly intelligent people across the brewing industry, but not everyone's good at everything. And there are a lot of really incredible brains that weren't trained formally in business, or there are people that have risen the ranks within breweries that maybe don't have professional office training in a way that they understand email etiquette or how to understand personality types in a way that you can create an opportunity. So again, I'm thinking of this as professional development for these individuals. It's not just going out and inviting people in, it's understanding the community even more intentionally in a way that you can inform your marketing strategy. What personality types are you seeing? Are people ordering a second round? Are people, like what is happening when you're looking around? And I pull that from my property management days. When I was managing an apartment complex, we had to shop our competitors. We had to do outreach marketing. We had to go pound pavement and pass out flyers. So when I realized that beer wasn't doing that, why not? Guys, let's go sit in other breweries, and not to critique or criticize. Let's see what the customers are talking about. Do people clean up after themselves in this brewery? What's the lighting like? These are opportunities for us to taste and feel and experience as customers in a team building exercise. So I'm a big fan of shopping competitors. I'm a really big fan of having an outreach marketing component. And I think that all of that should inform things that are happening organically within the brewery. And I think that it is just as impactful for the human beings doing this work to get that credit, right? To have that LinkedIn connection, as it is to have the brewery be visible. I think that there's a lot of professional development opportunity in that. And I do think it would inform sales, and that will trickle down to your hourly staff and things like that too.
Well, not only that, I would imagine it kind of boosts the internal workplace culture, that you're asking your individuals to go out there and say, well, yeah, of course you're representing the brewery, but I want you to better yourself. I want you to grow. I trust you as an ambassador for the brand. Go and make the connections for yourself. At the same time, bring them back to the brewery. Like it's a win-win situation. And what you're saying about kind of listening to what the community wants, we've talked about it with other guests before, but actually, if you attend a few of these and you start hearing the same thing, it's like, oh, we never have a place to do X, or that no one seems to do Y. That could be like a missing opportunity that your brewery could jump on. And all of a sudden, every Tuesday morning, you're hosting the mums and babies group for coffee or whatever it is, because they just don't have that place. So like you say, it's an expansion of your own marketing strategy just by sitting and listening. I think, oh, it's beautiful. So here's my question though, right? How many times should you really be giving this a good old college try to work out if it's working for you? Because I can imagine someone's going to go, yeah, I'll go to my Chamber of Commerce for a couple of hours, and then, well, it didn't really work out. I don't think I'm going to do that again. But surely one and done isn't the approach to take.
It's not. So what I would recommend to anyone interested in this approach is don't just go and apply for your chamber. Actually reach out. Most Chamber of Commerce are going to have a representative that will take a call with you, explain what they operate, what they offer. They are very invested in earning your business to get you to join the chamber. So I would let them sell you on it, or the person that you connect with within your personal chamber will have a better idea of who is in which groups, and they want to set you up for success. So there's often morning meetings, there's often evening socials, there's often informative seminars and things like that. They may recommend that you go to the evening social because it's more likely that you'll have beer drinkers. But if you're looking for musical artists, or if you're looking for employees, like there may be benefits to going to different networking events based on your objective. But I would say the starting point is to reach out to your chamber. I'm also a little interesting in that I move a lot. I like to move. And the first thing I do every time I get to a new city is I send an email to the Chamber of Commerce and the Economic Development to introduce myself. And it has been a pretty wonderful experience across multiple chambers in Virginia. So I'm really sorry if anybody hears this and that's not the case. I maybe am spoiled, but I've been to a lot of them in Virginia, okay? There are people in the community that it is their responsibility to help your business be successful. Why not go talk to them? The Economic Development Authority is designed to attract and retain business in your area. Go tell them what you're struggling with, and they will help you. There are a number of organizations that host free mentorship and free educational and all kinds of things. I find that not every business owner knows to ask. And if you don't know it's there, you may not even know that it's an opportunity. So if nothing else, I would Google my local Chamber of Commerce and send an email and ask what it is they offer and see what the events are like. They'll often let you go to an event for free, something like that, so you can trial and error. And then there are typically, in this area, there are a number of different organizations that you can pay to become a part of. I recommend vetting as many as you have the bandwidth for. Maybe give yourself a month to go try any meetings you can get into for free, and then narrow it down based on the people you connect with and its proximity to your schedule. I think that any effort deserves 30 days before a decision is made, specifically within marketing. And I think that you would be able to determine that you wanted to join or not join the chamber formally, like in that 30-day period. If you're absolutely not sure, the spaghetti approach of this, I would say, is set aside a certain amount of dollars or a certain amount of money, and you know you're going to invest that in outreach this month, whether it's 50 or 100, whatever that looks like. You have in your mind that you're going to spend that much going to events, and then recording the metrics really is the big part of it. You know, the accountability of not only documenting the experience, but paying it forward. So one thing I love that Pink Boots does, anytime you get a scholarship, And Pink Boots Society is an organization for female non-binary individuals in the fermented beverage industry. It is international. But anytime you get a scholarship, the expectation is that you're going to bring back everything you learned and teach it to everyone in your chapter. I think it should be the same with outreach marketing, right? Whatever experiences, whatever insights you get, the expectation is that you come back and maybe it's a monthly presentation of who you connected with, what that looks like, how you're expecting it will impact the business, because then you get buy-in from everyone too. And you've also got other people on the staff looking out for those connections and greeting them with excitement when they see that ROI come in. So I love the idea of this exciting lots of people on the staff. I find that people like to be seen and recognized. I encourage people to use LinkedIn almost like your yearbook, right? You want to be in the pictures. You want people to sign it. You want evidence of all of the things that you've been doing in the last year. And that serves not only you in attracting future coworkers, future promotions, future opportunities, but it still brings attention to your organization, right? There's all these different touch points that tie together by going out and introducing yourself to the community and getting credit for it by documenting that evidence on LinkedIn, for example.
Amazing. Well, I feel like we've just unpacked a whole strategy. And like you say, like a lot of these places, they offer the come once for free. So you can really milk that. Trust me, I've done it in the past. I've been to a load of groups. They're like, hey, you're a cool guy. And then I just connected with them on LinkedIn and just bypassed the group because I'm lazy like that. I'm money conscious. But then you've got other ones where you kind of like pay to play. So you turn up in the morning and you might pay $7 for the entry. You get your unlimited coffee, but you don't have to invest in the hundreds of dollars, hundreds of pounds membership until you find the one that you feel is right. And I suppose once you've found that one, you know it because you're like, oh yeah, if you're tracking, it's like, I remember you, or we talked to, at the whatever meeting it is, and now you brought your colleague and whatever it is into the tap room. So it all makes sense. I love it. So I want to just park the networking bit for a second, because there are other things that we spoke about when we were chatting offline previously. Like one was a really interesting one about the Google business profile side of things. So if we were to take this a little step further, we could connect it to, so you bumped into someone at networking, you've added them on LinkedIn, but then they've gone and typed in your business name into Google. And one of the first things they can see is your business profile, right? So talk to me a little bit about that and how breweries need to leverage it and optimize it.
Sure. Again, my approach is how to budget with time and organic effort. So a Google business profile is something that a business owner can nurture as frequently as they'd like to, but I would encourage any brewery to have eyes on their Google business profile at least once a week. I can see the value in doing that at least once a week. And a way that the networking could translate is you could reflect some of your business updates on your Google business profile based on what you're hearing in the community, right? So say, for example, people are looking for a space, but they're hoping that it has arcade games. And you realize then that your Google business profile doesn't specifically list arcade games. Well, that's a way that you can help connect the dots, not only for the audience in your community, but it also helps inform anyone that's searching for something like that nearby you. We are in an interesting time right now of an evolution of search engine optimization, and not just in Google SEO, but also in acknowledging that a percentage of our demographic is specifically searching for answers to their questions on social media platforms. So there are lots of benefits to self-identify all of the different features and things that you have within your brewery, but a Google business profile is that low-hanging fruit that not enough people really leverage. I think people hear a lot about Google reviews. I think people know that they have to respond to the Google reviews. What not enough people talk about is the opportunity to put information about your brewery into your responses. So say, for example, that someone wanted to come to the brewery and they give you a 1-star review on Google because you don't have any cider and they only drink cider. That, in my opinion, is an opportunity. You are able to overcome a future objection leveraging that information. Thank you so much for coming into our location in City State, right? Helping Google tie the knots. Thank you so much for coming to see us in this area. We're so sorry that you didn't find the cider that you were looking for, but we have all of these different alternatives or information on other things they could have enjoyed, right? This is an opportunity for you to tell Google and tell other people that you are an active profile, that a human is running this business, and potentially an opportunity to overcome future objections. No one wants a negative review, but you cannot be paralyzed by your negative review because that really impacts your Google business profile. Google business profile is a place that you can post your events, which is beneficial. It's a place that you can post updates. You can change out your photos. But I think my favorite feature that I see people not leveraging nearly as much as they could, there's a questions and answers section on your Google business profile. You can ask and answer your own questions. So say you didn't get that 1-star review. Say you had someone come in and they were really upset and they complained that you didn't have cider and then they left. Well, I might go to my Google business profile and ask, do you have cider at this brewery? And answer, unfortunately, we do not carry cider at this time, but this is what we would recommend to our cider drinking friends, right? So if you hear that a lot of people are calling and asking about cider and you don't have the ability to add that other product in, you can get ahead of it by going to your Google business profile. And I find that the more you put this information in, the more likely it is that you will show up as a result. Now, there is, I think in general, a disclaimer about any search engine optimization or AI generated information. We're definitely in a transitional period for how that works. But historically, and what's happening, at least right now, is that the algorithms do prioritize the human content over things that are automated. So the more you show these programs that you are a human managing it, the more you are incentivized and the more likely it is that your content will be seen. And I'm seeing that on Google Business Profile. I'm seeing that on social media. I'm seeing that pretty universally. Platforms, software, they want you to be on their software for as long as possible. So if you are celebrating other businesses, engaging with other businesses, participating with your Google Business Profile, all of those things count in your favor. It's not literally points of credit, but every time you touch your Google Business Profile, you are communicating to the internet, the algorithms in the world that you're an active business. And that's always really valuable. So big fan of questions and answers on the Google Business Profile.
Yeah, I can see it being used as like frequently asked questions a lot of the time. Like, are you dog friendly? Do you have baby change facilities? Have you got outside seating? Is there somewhere to park? All that. Can I camp overnight in the car park? Just to make sure I'm not confusing anyone, and I want to check that I've got it right. The Google Business Profile is when you type for a business, it's the bit that appears on the right-hand side next to the search engine, right? Or the search results.
Yes.
So talk to me like a dummy. How would I go in and like change some of that? Because I'm sure there's loads of people go, dude, I never even realized we could answer like and ask questions. So where do you go in Google to find this wonderful holy grail of like extra content you could add?
That's a really great question. And I genuinely hope anyone watching this now or later that has that question goes and looks, because you can have a business on Google and not have taken credit for it or claimed it, right? So Google Business Profile originally was exclusively for brick and mortars because of the map component. Right. Google Business Profile was a way to help the maps connect the dots and all of that type of thing. During COVID, my understanding is that they relaxed that because businesses were changed so fundamentally. And now pretty much anyone can create a Google Business Profile. Now, if you have a brick and mortar, it is essential that you claim your location on the map and that you verify your location, because that will positively impact people finding you, because that tells Google that you are real and legit, right? Because if we think about Google wanting to keep people on Google, they need to make sure that they're providing accurate, relevant information. So they want you to be verified. They want you to do that extra step because they don't want to be wrong if they send someone to your website or to your location. So when you Google your business, you should either see that right-hand panel and an opportunity to claim it, or you should see a dashboard. Now, again, Google wants your business. There are lots of really, really user-friendly videos and tutorials. I would encourage you, and you can ask AI too. Any questions that you have, there are absolutely answers for that Google business profile. If you're feeling overwhelmed by that, that might be the first question that you ask your local chamber or your local economic development. You know, I watched this really great podcast. Now I know I need a Google business profile. I'm feeling completely overwhelmed by that. Is there someone that can help me? And that is the best start to finding those free resources, or the people that are paid by your local government specifically to help you with things like this. You just have to ask. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, 100%. It actually triggered a memory where I was claiming the brand weaver stuff, and I like typed it in and it kind of popped up. I was like, oh, and then, like you say, there was a button like, do you own this business, or do you, and claim it? And then it's a really simple kind of authorization thing. But the regularly asked questions, I'm going to check back in there. I'm going to add, is that a real bid? Yes, it is. Do you ever take the hat off? No, I do not. And many more as part of
okay. I'm glad you brought that up though. Think about what people would be searching for when they find you. And I don't know that people would be searching for podcasts with Guy That Wears Hat. So
I don't think you're wrong there.
So do you only talk about beer on your live stream podcast, right? Or like, what other keywords can you kind of stuff into those questions and answers? Because what I want you to be thinking about is, if someone were going to find me today, what could they be searching for? And how can I use my frequently asked questions, my questions and answers to connect those dots? That's really what you're working to. There's very little we own in this space, a lot, and you just had a great conversation with Chris Overly. There's very little that we own in this space. You can control updating your Google business profile and just slightly moving that needle. And a disclaimer in that too, there are lots of people that you could invest in that will help you with this. There are absolutely paid services and paid benefits to this. I'm here today to talk about more how you can do it yourself, or the things you're not thinking about if you are doing it yourself. And again, a chamber or an economic development could help you figure out where that threshold is. Are you at a point where it's time for you to hire a vendor? But that's also a question you could be asking in these networking events. I've been in this area for a really long time. I'm new to networking. I just realized I don't have a Google business profile. I'm looking for someone who can help me set that up. You're going to meet somebody, right? And then you invite them into your brewery to show you how to do it. And then you've got someone new walking in the door. That's how I want people to think about it. I want you to find the humans, find the people, think about where they're at in their process. And so for breweries, are people looking for brewery near me? Sure. Or are they looking for brewery that is kid friendly? And so maybe one of your questions is, do you allow kids at your brewery? And the answer, so you got kids there, maybe the answer says, we love children, right? Because is your audience Googling kids or children? Those are some things you can kind of think about, and you can change those questions and answers over time. So what I typically encourage people to do is the questions you get most frequently on the phone, start with those. And then once a month, swap out some of your questions or your pictures, right? We should be checking our reviews every day. I'm always a little baffled at people that say check their reviews once a week. We get emails when we get reviews, guys. We should go right to that review and acknowledge it. And all reviews, good and bad. But I love the idea of kind of experimenting with who shows up when you try to meet people where they are, and then leaning into that, right? When you find that networking group that you really like, lean in, keep going. And I think another thing we haven't really talked about that it can be topical in brewery is kind of job roles and responsibilities or inherent turnover. So I love when owners go to these networking things. It's more realistic that your tasting room manager, your sales guy is going to go, or your salesperson is going to go. So I do think it's good also to have multiple people participate. Maybe 1 month this department owns it. Maybe the next month the other department owns it, with the idea that everyone brings all that information back, right? We're sharing LinkedIn contacts. We're making sure that the brewery is following the businesses. And then we're coming up with ideas on how we can entice all of these other businesses to host their events at our brewery. Or do we want to cater something? Or it just really opens up a lot of opportunities that feel like actionable conversations where social media really can be a gamble.
It makes so much sense. And also you touched on like kind of reviewing that content on the Google business profile, like and changing it up. I remember talking to Dan Hornbrook a while ago, like the photography side of things, right? I was just thinking like if it's the middle of summer, then you want the lovely outdoor shots of the tap room and the tables. But like if you're then going to Google that in the middle of winter, the last thing you want to see is like the outside seating, unless it's really cozy with loads of heaters and stuff. So this, yes, it connects all the dots, and it's, my goodness, we've been chatting for so long now, mate. This is maddening. And I know there's so much more that we wanted to talk about, but I reckon we're going to have to queue up another conversation at some point. With that in mind, let's bring this to a close with a question that I seem to be asking everyone right now. You are sat in a tap room next to a brewery owner, and the brewery owner's going, "Oh, lovely to meet you, but my cab's just a minute down the road." You have a minute to impart some value, some knowledge onto them about the networking side of things, about their Google business profile. Like, what is that last little nugget of value that you leave them with before they dive off into their cab and they're never seen again?
I would word vomit everything I've been saying for the last 40 minutes at a very rapid pace because I am absolutely that nerd. I'm impossible to go out with because I am always giving unsolicited suggestions and advice about networking and resources. And I think when I started my business and I joined the Craft Beer Professionals Facebook group and really started social listening to things that were happening, it is amazing how many resources there are that people have not found. And I don't know if it's because they didn't know how to Google or they didn't feel like they would qualify or they didn't feel, I don't know what any of those reasons are specifically. I just know there's so much help out there. There are so many people interested in your business and seeing you be successful. You just have to go say hello. So in realizing that and seeing how helpful the Craft Beer Professionals group is and answering all these questions, it just, I would encourage them to at least Google the Chamber of Commerce and start that conversation. Find the people in your town who are invested in your business generating revenue because it makes them look good as a town. That's your starting point. Find that person, introduce yourself, tell them what you're trying to accomplish, think about the team that you have on, and let that conversation go from there. And don't be discouraged. Not everyone, again, not every chamber is built the same. Not everyone has the same email response etiquette. I think the real big ask is get out of the office and go introduce yourself to somebody this month. Find some place that you wouldn't have normally been, have a 4-pack or a sticker or a keychain or something, and just be there to listen and then find out what people are talking about, right? I think that's the opportunity. Get out of the office this month.
And then would I be right in thinking that you probably try and connect with them on LinkedIn as well before they run away?
Right? Obviously.
I mean,
if I give it a many times, right?
Yeah.
I do that all the time. Yeah. And I would rather, and honestly, I would rather LinkedIn than my phone number. I think we're at a place now too, where not everybody carries a business card necessarily, but I don't want to conduct my business through text. So I'd rather connect through a professional place, because if you're not a guy that emails and I don't want text messages, let's meet on LinkedIn and keep the conversation productive, right? Again, finding people where they are. But yes, I absolutely would have already added him on LinkedIn.
Madeline, I appreciate your time and your knowledge. Like, there's definitely been some stuff here that I hope people are listening to going, yeah, I'm going to check that out. I'm going to give that a go. But obviously they could connect with you on LinkedIn. That's one place they can find you. But if they wanted to pick your brains a little bit more, understand any more about Google business profiles, or, we didn't even touch on social media in this chat, but of course you've got experience in those realms. Where can people find you? Where can people get in touch?
LinkedIn is great. Madeline R, as in Regina McMahon. Also email is great too. I'm an email nerd. So Madeline@beerpaysthebills.com. That's my conversation starter in the networking world, because it completely disarms everyone. Wait, beer pays the bills? I'm like, yeah, come see my client. Come hang out.
Check it out.
Yes.
Okay, LinkedIn and email. Madeline, again, thank you so much for your time. Everyone who's taken a couple of minutes out of their busy day to listen in, be it live or later on in the future. Yes, I'm talking to you, future listeners from the past. It's weird and trippy, but it's happening right now. Thank you. If you want to catch any of the other episodes, just search Branding for Breweries, or you can head towards the brandweaver.co.uk/branding for breweries and subscribe to the newsletter, where you get an email reminder when each one drops. Yes, that's some shameless promotion right there, but I've got to do it. It's my channel. It would be wrong if I didn't. Bless you all, everyone. Love you lots. See you on the other side. Rock on.